Being a quorum present, I call this meeting of the Board of Education to order. The board would like to welcome the audience and thank you for attending. Viewers may watch Board of Education meetings and board committee meetings live at tcaps.net/board. Recorded meetings may be viewed on demand at the same address. Before we get started, I just want to welcome our newest board member, Sarah Vajeras. So thank you, and again, thank you to all the candidates that applied, but we're really excited to have you, Sarah, serve with us. So, yes. Okay, so we'll move right into our Pledge of Allegiance. So please rise and join Miss Gugamo's second grade class from Long Lake for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we are at the review approval portion of the agenda. Are there any motions or any changes?
Yes, I would like to add 2 agenda items for discussion tonight. One would be preparation for our strategic planning session number 2, and that would be added as 9F as in Frank. And then secondly, designating TCAP's electoral representative to North Ed for their election coming up in June. That would be item number 9G.
I second.
Okay, any discussion? So we have to take a vote, right? Do we vote on that? Yeah, we have to take a vote. Okay, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is recognition. I'll defer to Dr. Van Wagner.
Okay, so tonight, and we'll really do this mostly individually a little bit farther in the agenda, but we are recognizing our 24-25 retirees. We have quite a large class of retirees or staff that are finally graduating from our district, and just a phenomenal group of people. Lots of service and dedication to the kids here in Traverse City. And so we are going to take the time to recognize each one of them individually to call their name out. We will also be having a retiree ceremony where we recognize our retirees. So we will be having that here coming up a couple weeks.
May 29th.
May 29th. So we'll celebrate them and thank them for their service tonight and at that opportunity. So
perfect. And we'll read those individuals later in the board meeting. Okay, we will move on. So the board has set aside this time for public comment. Individuals addressing the board shall have 1 opportunity to speak during public comment and shall be limited to 3 minutes. Individuals should not make personal attacks unrelated to actions affecting the school system. We strongly encourage common courtesy and constructive feedback. Detailed rules and procedures, including a complaint process, are outlined in Board Policy 2504. Tammy, do we have public comment?
We do. Scott Richards.
Scott Richards, Green Lake Township. I'm glad to see a couple of new board members. So I'm gonna repeat a story that I've said before. The best thing I've ever learned in my life was sugar time. Sugar time was time with my grandparents early in the morning as grandkids would get together. We read a short devotional, which is a couple Bible verses, and then we read the Bible. And then we get up and hug each other and kiss each other. And it's the best way to start it. I'm just telling you, it's the best thing I've learned in my life. Second thing is, freedom of religion is in the First Amendment because our God gave the forefathers such wisdom because they just saw 2,000 years of fight. Okay? Like if you were in England and you were under King George, and you didn't belong to the Church of England, you were kicked out. They took your homes. But say you came from France, and if you were a Protestant in a Catholic country, you were kicked out of that country. So that's why all these pilgrims that came here, and Puritans, they wanted freedom of religion. It wasn't state, it wasn't religion in the state. They just didn't want one state, the United States of America, saying, you got to belong to this church. That's why freedom of religion's in there. We should have religion in our country and in our public schools. Matter of fact, the Bible was the first textbook in America. And people who read the Bible, if you guys should look up the story of Jordan Domingue of Marquette, Michigan. Jordan Domingue. Sad story. I was wondering if you read these books, like Red, White, and Royal Blue, or Queer, Gender Queer, or All Boys Aren't Blue. I wonder if he looked at them books and led to his demise. I don't think these books should be in the schools. If they want to be 18 years old and look at them books, that's fine with me. But we do not need to glue young people's minds because they come from broken homes. They have a lot of confusion going on, and this ain't the time to show them books like this. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Sebastian Easton Ellison.
I'm Sebastian Ellison, a senior at Traverse City West. I've spoken here before about the harassment and threats I've received as my time as a student here in TCAPS. However, that doesn't mean the harassment has stopped. Just today, as I was walking to my car with a friend so we can go to CTC, another car full of students, also on the way to CTC, pulled up, started yelling slurs at me, called us faggots, and proceeded to drive off. Not only that, just a couple of weeks ago, my car was targeted in the parking lot with slurs written in the dust outside or on the side of it. Again, I need to stress, I am not confused. We are not confused. We know who we are. From the time I last spoke, I've begun working with different political and news organizations. And to stress that fact, I support those. I support those like me, and TCAPS should support those like me who have experienced hate crimes. And that's why I'm also in support of some of these books we have in our libraries, as students need to be educated on all sides, all points of view, all identities. Removing books is not the way to do that. We need to teach our kids about all religions, not just one. That's why our country doesn't have a state religion, because all people should be able to practice how they want. One of the programs that support this is the arts here in TCAPS, and to be able to freely express themselves and feel safe. This is why I've been a part of our choir program for the past 8 years. And that's why it's so disheartening to know that despite improvements to our music facilities being one of the main advertising points of the last bond proposal, the one curricular program myself and other students feel safe in and supported is not getting what we need to keep going. West Middle School is just one of the most in need of improvements, with 75 plus students a class next year in their choir program. Yet they've only received 1% of the bond money that voters had the impression was going to support our music programs. Again, we are not getting what is needed when the choir program I am a part of at West High School can barely afford sheet music for us to learn. While at the same time, TCAPS has 3 ensembles, 2 from West, 1 from Central, performing at the MSVMA All-State Festival last Friday, one of which being top 10 in the state, again. I'm here because of Holly Board, not only her desire to support these programs, but also the desire and need of the students to support them and experience them as well. Thank you.
Sarah Payette.
So in honor of Teen Pregnancy Prevention and Awareness Month, TCAPS is hopefully signing a proclamation that will be at your discussion later tonight. I am the program director for Generations Ahead. We're a small nonprofit in the region that supports teen parents, both moms and dads. I'm here tonight to promote this resolution in recognition of one of our more vulnerable populations, teen parents. Over the past 5 years, there have been 141 births to teen parents in this region in the 3 counties that TCAPS serves. That's Grand Traverse, Benzie, and Leelanau. Teen parents face a number of unique and complicated challenges as they navigate the journey of parenthood while still facing adolescence. They are at an increased risk for numerous detrimental outcomes, specifically regarding their education. Teen moms who get pregnant while in high school have only a 50% chance of graduating from high school before the age of 22. Teen fathers have a 30% lower chance of graduating than their peers. And just 2% of teen moms have graduate from college or even attend college, I should say. Teen parents are also more likely to live in poverty, have poor health outcomes for themselves and for their babies, and many face mental health challenges, including depression and severe anxiety. Their babies also face significant challenges and should be a concern of everyone in our community, including starting at kindergarten. At Generations Ahead, we believe that empowering young parents while they are still teens help them overcome these obstacles. With guidance and a supportive community like ours, these young parents will become more resilient and be able to live thriving, independent lives. Thank you for your ongoing support as the school district, as the Board of Education, and also serving our students in our community, many of who are here tonight, but no matter the needs and the situation. Thank you.
Mike Grillo?
Good evening. I wanted to take a moment to send a big thank you to the board and to staff for a fantastic job on the innovation and manufacturing centers. It's been a real privilege to be part of the process since the outset and to imagine what these were going to be like. And a few weeks ago had the opportunity I unfortunately missed the open houses at the two facilities due to a conflict, but I had the chance to attend a group of manufacturers in the Central Center, and what a wow moment. Oh my goodness. And these are incredible resources for the entire community. It was so exciting to hear some of the robotics teams talking about how they're using the spaces, how other teams outside of TCAPS are using the spaces. This is a regional center, not just for our students, but more importantly, to hear from educators from West and Central, for the middle schools, the high schools, about STEM program, all the things that are happening in STEM programming, exciting things that are coming down the line, and it was just a fantastic moment, and I just wanted to say a big thank you. On a personal note, I became a grandfather for the first time in January, and it just occurred to me last night as I was looking through the agenda and preparing for this evening. It occurred to me that, you know, my goodness, my grandson is probably going to end up attending TCAPS and might actually have the opportunity to utilize those, be part of those spaces as well. And so it was really a different perspective and a really appreciative perspective. And so I just wanted to say thank you. Fantastic job. Really looking forward to see where everything goes next. Thank you.
Damian Gagnon?
Hello, members of the board. My name is Damian Gagnon, and I'm a senior at Traverse City West Senior High. I'm going to be talking about how I feel lost in the school system. I'm a trans student, and I can't begin to describe how it feels hearing my dead name announced to the class. I have tried so hard to keep that name hidden from the world, and I'm sure other students feel the same. It hurts so much to hear that name because I've been going by a different name for so long. And I hate being reminded of everything that has happened in my past with that name. I had to get a form signed by my parents to just change my name in the system so that my preferred name could be in the school yearbook, even though I've been going by my preferred name at school all my high school career. I know that there are other students at our schools that feel the same, but might not have that support that my parents have given me. And it's not fair to have those students who try so hard to have their preferred names hidden, to have to show the world that their preferred name is what it is, instead of the name that they've been going by for many years.
Bill Wiesner.
Don't get them afterwards.
They'll get 'em.
Pass them on until after.
Sorry, I should have had that ready. Bill Wiesner, Traverse City. And I just wanna, this handout I gave out is potential variables creating same-sex attraction. So it's appropriate for a few of the comments that have been made. Here's a book. Oh, by the way, this is a new sign. Hopefully it'll be, I got them from Ohio. It's celebrating our American tradition, Natural Family Strong, naturalfamilystrong.com. And hopefully they'll be around, because who doesn't want to, same-sex parents, you know, you try to do what you can, but each same-sex parent marriage is by design leaving out either a mom or a dad. Ideal is the American tradition, it's one man, one woman. It's not to say anything else is, it's just the best. Everybody wants a mom and a dad who are loving, and that relationship stays together forever. You've got 500 books at TC West promoting homosexuality, not one on the other side. Here's a good one to start with, Rich's Home. It's a kid's book, but this handout, Potential Variables Creating Same-Sex Attraction, a lot of them occurred to Rich in this storybook. And you've got books in 4 of the grade schools that are promoting homosexuality. I urge you, I expect you to get the other side presented. And this one shows these are common sense things that occur in families: heredity, unresolved family issues, temperament, hypersensitive, hetero-emotional wounds, over-attachment to opposite-sex parents, homo-emotional wounds, lack of attachment to same-sex parents. I mean, there's a whole bunch of lists here, and they all make sense to me. Sibling wounds, bullied by your families, oftentimes older siblings, body image, shorter, taller, heavier, thinner. Sexual abuse is a big one, which can cause homosexual imprinting if you're sexually abused at a young age. And it just happens. You don't choose it, but it's there. And social or peer wounds, by name calling. I'm against all of that. The people that are identified this way need affirmation in a loving way. They don't need any bullying. And so the list, please check them out. I'll be speaking about these songs too. A therapist guide. This should be in the high schools. You're withholding the books on the other side from kids. And being gay, that's another one. Don't withhold these from the kids. Let them see these books in your libraries. Thank you.
That's the end of public comment.
Okay, we will move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Van Wagner?
Okay, legislative update, not a lot. We are waiting, this Friday is the consensus revenue hearing, which the state, Senate fiscal, House fiscal, the treasurer of the state of Michigan worked with economic professionals from the University of Michigan, Wayne State, and Michigan State, and they come up with what they think the revenues will be for this next coming fiscal year. Today I heard an interesting thing that for the first time ever, they are talking about an additional June consensus revenue conference now, because of the where tariffs are and not knowing, and the federal money and where it's at, that they may want to take a closer look. Unfortunately, the word is if they decide to do that, they may not have the budget then done until September. So a lot of question marks, probably even more after my update this morning with our our legislative liaison that's in Lansing, so we'll kind of see where that lands. We are hoping still for this week, more likely maybe next week, to see a House version at least. And from that point, we're going to have to take whatever the House version, the Senate, and the governors, even though they may be far off, and we're going to have to build a budget that we bring to the board. So that will be at our next board meeting. We will bring you our best guess from everything we think's there for a 25-26 budget. So be prepared that we may not have all the pieces of the puzzle, so.
Can I just ask?
Yeah.
So they're not statutorily required to have.
They're not statutory. There was a bill passed, but it is in statute, but it's not in the Constitution. So there's no violation, there's no penalty if they don't meet that July 1 date. So the speaker, honestly, in the rhetoric over the last 48 hours has changed the tune of we don't have to. So I don't know. Roads are in the mix, still, and a change in how schools are funded to take some of that to be able to do a $3 billion road package. So we just have no idea right now where it is. So just be prepared. We're going to bring you the very best thoughts that we can. Hopefully we will have the House version for next month. And district highlights. East and West Middle Schools hosted a very successful career day where members of the community came in to share the many different career options in Northern Michigan and beyond. Ms. Paige Paul and Mr. Tack-Reddy and their students at both Central and West High School have been a part of their AP classes and congressional hearings and debates to mimic what our government does. Students are learning in real time how to interact and listen on issues and how to do so in a proper governmental debate. I heard today that TAC, I think, has the kids in the new IMCs and doing a Supreme Court version. Joe had told me this afternoon. So utilizing that facility for lots of things, and so appreciate their work. Always great work in both of their AP courses. As was mentioned before, the ribbon cuttings were held at West Senior High and Central High School for the Innovation and Manufacturing Centers. We've already had other schools come and take visits and want to talk with our team on what that looks like. And we have more coming. So again, thank you to all those that have participated in all those showings, staff, students, everybody. I know both schools are very excited to be in the new space and already getting great use. The TC Titans did roll into Houston with the goal of being selected in the playoffs. The robot worked flawlessly and the drive team put up incredible numbers despite one of the toughest schedules on the field. They had the best showing in the history of the team, which placed 145 out of 3,500 robots worldwide and 18th in the state of Michigan out of 525 teams. So, and I know they're even more excited for next year. Traverse City West High School academic weapons. Traverse City West, they said high school academic weapons. That's Ryan Goodrich, Dylan Griglowski. Did I say that right?
You got it.
All right. Trey Stewart and Tucker Ballinger, along with Coach Dan Rosenberg, competed in the Academic World Quest National Competition in Washington, D.C. on April 27th through the 29th. After winning the regional competition in February, the team and the trip were sponsored by the International Affairs Forum at NMC. TCAS would like to thank the International Affairs Forum at NMC for sponsoring the regional competition for Academic World Quest and funding for the trip to DC. It was a great experience for those students. The competition took place Monday afternoon and the team finished 32nd in the country. Trip highlights included exploring the National Mall, various memorials and the Smithsonian museums, presentations from people involved in foreign affairs, including those from the State Department and White House National Security Team. A dinner reception sponsored by Mexico, highlighted by a speech by the Mexican ambassador to the U.S. Tuesday highlights included a trip to the Embassy of the United Arab Emirates, where several embassy staff presented their roles and took questions from students about the UAE and its relations with the USA, followed by a trip to Capitol Hill and meeting with Michigan Senator Alyssa Slotkins, National Security Advisor, who visited with the team, answering questions about her roles and the various national security issues that are happening today. So, great experience. Central Grade School had a great book giveaway the week of April the 7th. Students were given the opportunity to choose a book to keep. The books were acquired mostly through donations and some were retired from the library collection. Thanks to Central Grade School's Mrs. Schrock and her son Oliver for organizing the event. English Learner Program staff hosted a breakfast for Traverse Heights Elementary School families to hear about their child's learning and English progress. Parents, students, and staff enjoyed breakfast together, and students were able to check out a book to take home. The books were purchased through a grant from the TCAPS Ukrainian Library. After the breakfast, parents joined the students at their weekly all-school house assembly in the gymnasium, where Mr. K pointed out their superpower of multilingualism. Special thanks to the District EL program staff and interpreters D.B. Craig and Alicia Power for attending to assist families with communication. So lots of other things happening across the district. Kids are frantically finishing up AP exams all over. Lots of sports are getting towards the end. Just lots of great activities that are happening. As we know, word ceremonies are getting ready to start, and not all that far from graduation. So great time of year, great time to celebrate kids and everything they're doing. And if you get the chance of all the things we have, we would love to have everybody in our community and our board come out and be able to wish our seniors a goodbye as they have achieved so many great opportunities and so many great accolades. With that, that's it.
Excellent, lots of good things, thanks for that. All right, we'll move into our board committee reports. So first up will be our curriculum committee that occurred on April 29th, report out by Secretary Ballinger.
Okay, yeah, so we did not have public comments. There was one change to our meeting minutes from April 1st to reflect that the full committee recommended that the board keep information on student attendance and absenteeism, and particularly chronic absenteeism, in mind with our strategic planning. There were no changes or additions to our district course catalog, but it is on the consent calendar tonight to be consistent with our practice, even when no changes are made. And we also just changed our date, for August 26th meeting, from a Tuesday to a Monday, just to accommodate some scheduling conflicts. And then going forward, we're thinking that our start time will be 8:30 a.m. But you know, if we have an addition of a new trustee, then we can revisit that if that's not a good time for all. We approved for consent calendar the West Senior High School's German Exchange Partnership field trip to Germany next summer, June 18th to July 10th, for up to 15 students. And then the focus really of our meeting on April 29th was the learning series from Dan Teisworth and Jesse Houghton, where they presented to us some preliminary thoughts that they're gathering from teachers and principals on all the different assessments that we give students. So NWEA, MSTEP, PSAT, SAT, AIMS, ELA, math, and science. You know, our kids, of course, do take a number of national and state tests, standardized tests. The benefit to the district, of course, is at the school level, the teacher level, and as a district, you know, this is used for ongoing interventions and student growth. But of course, the downside for the teachers is and for the kids is just a lot of testing. And we've heard from parents over the years as well. So the district's just trying to juggle, you know, what's hitting the right mark in terms of which tests get us which outcomes and staggering them and so on. So the ideas are going to come back in the summer after getting more input from teachers and building administrators, and present again to us about their plans moving forward. And then lastly, we just had a brief conversation about strategic planning. As you all know, we had our first session April 28th, I believe it was, and our next session is scheduled for June 16th. So that was pretty much it, and we adjourned at 3:49. Our next board curriculum committee meeting will be Tuesday, May 27th at 8:30 a.m. in this building. That's it.
Okay, next board finance committee, which occurred on May 1st, trustee Hardy.
Well, I will not belabor the items that were included on consent, but we did approve 3 items to send on to, unanimously approved to send on to the board on the consent calendar. We the VEX robotic program, some STEM equipment, we asked that it be purchased through a grant that we have. So that's funded by the First Robotics Grant Program. We also had a cell booster system that we approved for West, I believe. Yeah, West Senior High.
And facilities and transportation.
And facilities and transportation, thank you. You can correct me whenever and then we also had a staff laptop purchase that we approved on, and sent on to the board for approval. It was unanimously approved, and it's the beginning of some outdated equipment that we have that needs to be replaced. We got a nice update on capital projects. I won't belabor that without video because it's nice to see it rather than hear about it. And then we also discussed briefly the difficulty of trying to approve a budget when we don't know what the revenue stream is going to be, but it seems to be an ongoing problem with public education in the state of Michigan that we have to guess sometimes, and then build a fiscal plan based on that. So, but that's been going on for years. Then we had a quick update on some upcoming district purchases. And we adjourned. And the next meeting is, I'm looking here. I believe it's the 1st of June, if I'm not mistaken.
Thursday, May 29th,
May 29th, okay,
8:15.
there I see it. Thank you.
All right, I will report out on the board executive committee. We had some procedural items which are all on the agenda. The resolution in support of Northwest Ed Services, general fund operating budget, the recognition and appreciation for our retirees, teen pregnancy awareness resolution, and then we reviewed the agenda for tonight's meeting. We had a couple informational items. Ms. Connie Taylor reported that the district currently has 39 TCAPS retirees. A third of those retirees are teachers. They've been working on getting ahead of the hiring for open positions and have a great candidate pool. Once the mission-based budget talks have been completed, they will know where the vacancies will be. So TCAPS is holding open interviews here in the administration building on Oak Street on May 14th from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and on June 18th from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Then we had a communications update from Miss Ginger Smith. And we talked about safe routes to school. So just to note that this discussion started in September of 2023 and that it's been a very long process. But Ms. Smith gave us an update on the Safe Routes to School initiative. She shared that the school surveys have been completed. May 12th through the 16th, volunteers will participate in walking and biking audits at Frankie Road and the Buffalo Trail in the mornings and the afternoons. And the next step will be a virtual meeting with the Safe Routes team, which includes MDOT, Garfield Township offices, TCAPS parent volunteers, and Dr. Van Wagner plans to give an update at the June 9th board meeting. So we will wait to get an update on that. And then our next executive committee meeting will be held on May 29th, and we adjourned at 5:07. Okay, next committee update, Sustainability Committee, which took place on April 17th, report out by Trustee Schmidt.
The Sustainability Committee has its first actual project, so we're doing stuff you can see outside this building and at least Central Grade and Traverse Heights. So Slow Mo May, formerly No Mo May, creating awareness for pollinator habitat. Thanks to the Children's Garden. So that's exciting. We're also in the process of drafting our first ever climate action plan, thanks to Emily Umbrager, who's the Director of Sustainability at Interlochen Center for the Arts. So there's a sub-team working on that, including the purpose, the vision, the mission of this committee. Tim Pulliam from Keen Energy attended, talking about technologies, innovations around different energy systems, including what is possible or not possible at the new Central Grade remodel. So he encouraged us to do the math. I believe he's meeting with the architects so that they're working on different systems versus fully electric to status quo to something in the middle. And then we formed another subcommittee helping prep the schools to apply for green school applications next year. and that's it. I believe we're meeting later this week. Thursday.
Okay, perfect. Next item on the agenda is the MASB Spring Conference, which occurred May 2nd through the 4th, and both trustees Ballinger and, I'm sorry, I missed one, sorry, I crossed it out before. So we'll back up one, the Superintendent Board of Education Student Advisory Council, which took place on April 15th, and that's a report out by trustee Schmidt.
Yeah, this was, I've been to many meetings. This was my favorite meeting so far. I really enjoyed it. We had about 20 students from Central and West, 19 of which were women. So there was one boy there. So I'm looking at maybe some of the boys to get involved next year. But we discussed course and program offerings, including the process and student perspective about what's available to TCAP students. And I'm not gonna read the report. Somebody went out of their way and made a nice report. I hope that all of you get to read it because I do think it's invaluable information in considering as we step into strategic planning to make sure the student voice is centered with some of this decision making because this, I mean, there is a question in the student survey in the strategic plan about 81% feel elective classes help them prepare for the future, but this goes deeper. So I hope that report can be shared. Because there's lots of things that the council wanted school board members to know. Just briefly, equity, access to support, improved counseling structures, student involvement in course communication, refining existing offerings, not just adding more. But it was really refreshing. These kids had a lot of awareness. They were aware that they were all college bound. There was no career bound kids. They knew that there was no career tech kids there. And I know we tried our best and we'll continue to try our best to try to get a diverse representation on this council next year. But I really enjoyed it. I hope I get to go again sometime.
Great. It is great to hear the kids, absolutely. Okay, now we'll move on to the MASB Spring Conference, report out by trustee Ballinger and Schmidt.
Okay, so first of all, for starters, I should just let y'all know, the setting was Mission Point Resort in Mackinac Island, May 2nd to 4th. And I've been to a few of these spring institutes and I've seen as few as 30 people show up. This had almost 300 people. So like in real estate, location, location, location. Anyway, I attended 4 sessions. There was a lot of overlap, consistent themes. So just my high-level takeaways: first class board leadership, a case study approach. This y'all would have gotten a kick out of because we broke into small groups. We had a case study on an athletic coach whose contract was recommended to not be renewed, but very controversial. A difficult board member, and posting the 10 commandments in schools. So everybody discusses in their small groups, shared, you know the usual strategy there. Second class was overseeing the superintendency, and sadly we learned that the #1 reason superintendents leave their jobs is the Board of Education. So very sobering information to learn.
And the average lifespan?
Yeah, that's coming. One thing MASB advocates is getting a facilitator at evaluation time to help that conversation take the pressure off the Board of Education president and ensure we're focusing on the right things, like our strategic plan, our mission, et cetera. And then third, the board self-evaluation. As some of you may know, MASB has a tool for boards to self-assess. Some districts do it every year with a facilitator, and then maybe in alternating years just on their own. That might be something we want to consider down the road once our new members have, gotten their feet under them. Third class was on board superintendent relations. Communication is key. That's the biggest thing. I raised my hand and gave some examples from our district, how you give us weekly updates. We have one-on-ones with you. Another district said they have 2-on-1s, like small group meetings. So those are, some best practices. And then my last class was actually a new one. These were all 300 level classes. It's called Empowering Education. The presenter there talked about how their research shows there is a very strong correlation between district leadership and student achievement. And district leadership is defined as the superintendent, the board, the central office, and the principals. And this is where the average tenure of a superintendent in Michigan right now is only 2.5 years. It was 4 years when I started 4 or 5 years ago. So COVID really changed things, and there probably is a demographic bulge as well, I don't know, but yeah, it's very sobering. There's a lack of institutional knowledge, and when you think about student achievement, every time you have turnover, it just slows down progress. So let's see, also another point I thought was valuable for us to know, because we recently approved some new curricula. It usually takes 3 to 5 years to yield results, and the presenter's message was stay on course, avoid flavor of the week or the month or the year, don't let great be the enemy of good. Also, what gets measured gets done, but don't have too many priorities. And culture eats strategy or structure for lunch. Culture really trumps everything else. Gonna have all the strategic plan and great curriculum and teaching, but if our culture is not supportive of our students and staff, then it's all for naught. Lastly, we just talked about policies to boost student achievement. So in the room and with the facilitator, attendance, is really being looked at nationally and in the state. Screen time. Some districts raised their hand and said that their board and administration are now evaluating kids having the one-to-one laptops. Warren Consolidated Schools even said they're taking them away this next coming year. The presenter just said, yeah, we've all gone to, the technology's gone this way, and now the pendulum's swinging back a little bit. Just thinking more about, being very intentional with teaching. So, just lastly, I wanted to say, please save the dates. MASB has another quarterly institute in the summer. It'll be in Lansing next time at MASB headquarters, August 15th to 16th. These are always weekends. And then, of course, the big one is the annual leadership conference, which will be in our backyard at the Grand Traverse Resort, October 23rd to 26th.
Well, I attended 5 100 level classes, which many of you have taken, so I'm not gonna bore you with those. But I did attend a full day AI workshop, which I thought was pretty interesting. And the one presenter was a self-professed Title I kid from Detroit, and he worked for Northville. And he pitched the equity imperative that AI can have, especially with our kids further some opportunity. And I'm very curious about that, especially with our English learners and our special needs kids. But I think we're doing a lot of things right. He said, but before you start talking about technologies, make sure you're clear on your why and your purpose. And then I was just reviewing our AI guidelines. And if you look at our 9 guiding principles, I feel pretty good about those. So the key questions he thought school board members should ask was, how does AI align with your strategic plan? How do we ensure equitable AI access? How will AI impact be measured? And how do we communicate about AI? So whenever the time is right, as we enter this new strategic plan to think about AI, he said it's here to stay. And to be crystal clear on our why. I also like the pillar he mentioned in Northfield is does it make teachers' lives easier? And the answer has to be yes. So that was an interesting pillar. And it was a great conference, and I love learning. And so that the summer series, but also for new board members, I'm looking at you two over there, that they also have a lunch and learn series. And there's actually one tomorrow, how to effectively collaborate with your superintendent, tomorrow at 12 online.
Okay, well, thanks to the two of you for attending and the report out. I appreciate hearing about it. Next agenda or item is board office hours. April 24th, report out by Beth Pack, which was an in-person meeting.
Yeah, and I had one person, Bill Wiesner, who came. We had a discussion. We've had a very similar discussion before in board hours. And one of the things we did discuss was when you're talking to the board, no one board member really dictates the decision-making for the board. And so you're really looking at a group of people who come to some common consensus, some agreement before you begin to see any kind of change. And so that I think was something valuable to talk about. And the next board meeting will be virtual meeting with Scott Newman Bale on May 22nd.
Perfect. And again, thanks for switching with me on that April 24th date. I'll fill in or switch to November, but I really do appreciate that. I had a
Actually, I think it's August.
Or August, yeah, you're right, August, yeah, perfect, so I will be there, so again, I really appreciate that. Our next board office hours is May 22nd, and the attending member is Scott Newman Bale, and that will be a virtual meeting. So again, just remember, we're trying to switch it up a little bit, live meetings at the library, and then virtual meetings just to see if we can accommodate more for people's schedule.
We had talked about whether in time we'll change this, and it'll be good to have Scott as part of that discussion.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, do we want to have people from the community say, actually, I'd like to have a meeting this month? And we could be prepared, but if we don't hear from the community, we basically don't have the board hours as a possibility. Although, you know, if Bill wants to meet with us one-on-one, you know, and go through the board, we can do that, we can continue doing that. But I'm thinking, you know, especially with things like some of the virtual meetings, there have been times when there's no one.
I think it just depends. I mean, I've had
Just think,
meetings
yeah.
where I have 15 people show up, and then I have, you know, some where just a couple and sometimes none. So I think maybe it's just, you know, whatever on the community's mind at the time, or, you know, different events or that kind of thing. So we can keep reevaluating and evaluating. I think to wait and hear how some of the virtual meetings have gone, I think will be good. I haven't done a virtual meeting, so I don't know, but it'll be good to hear maybe some feedback after the May 22nd virtual meeting. So.
Yeah, it's amazing how controversy will accelerate the participation in those office hours.
Yeah, that's right.
It certainly is at that point.
Yep, and also we moved the location from Horizon Books to Traverse Area District Library main branch.
Parking
And that, I think, makes it a little bit easier with the parking situation, so, yeah, I'm kind of a fan of keeping it.
I know.
Because you just never know.
That's right.
Somebody
Yeah.
can decide at the last minute,
Yeah.
I got nothing else to do, I'm gonna go talk to a board member.
Or it could be specific about their student, or, yeah, and just if something comes up, so.
Cell phone was an issue that people definitely were interested in, and talking about some of the facilities, you know, when you're talking about equity across the two high schools, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I understand that, but I think right now it's kind of a slow simmer.
Okay, we will move on to the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
So many.
Second.
Second, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next item, and this is actually, I meant to say this was coming up in our agenda, just talking about board committee updates and assignments, having the report outs on sustainability, health and wellness. I think Dr. Van Wagner is looking for some clarity from the board, that are these committees, specifically the sustainability as well as the wellness and nutrition, are these district work committees or are these board committee? A board member brought up that MASB said if more than one board member serves on a committee, it really needs to become a board committee. And we did away with some of our committees and consolidated, and so I think we just need to have a discussion. Yeah.
And to give clarity, it's not that it can't, it's just being careful of not, you know, reaching a consensus then to another board member and some of that. Ty shared a session that he had went to with MASB of, you know, kind of the open meetings and how that works in that element. So just, you know, to bring some clarity when we had started this down the road to kind of go just historically, the Health and Wellness Committee originally had to have one member per USDA on it. And that has always been a district work group. When Beth came on the board, she actually asked to also be on, and so the board, said that's fine. And then the Sustainability Committee, you may remember, Holly actually just kind of said, we had a student group that had asked for something, so Holly kind of threw out there, hey board, how about John and I do this? And that's kind of what, how it was left. We did, we had some conversation with Holly, before she had passed, and she had sent an email that it said that, with Scott, and Scott had thought it really was more of that district committee because there were only 2 board members versus 3. So, the way that I always kind of felt it was defined, if we had 3 board members, that was a board committee. But if there was 1 or 2, it's really a district committee that, a board member is just there as getting informational purposes only. Similar to when we have our union roundtable where we have a rotating member, and so I just am looking for that clarity to know, because who sets the agenda, all those kind of things are very different between the 2. And right now they're labeled as board committees online, so I think, however the decision is, whether that stays on or if that comes off for clarity for the community, I think, is important. So just looking for some clear direction there.
To be clear, we have some amazing staff committees. And so I fully support health and nutrition, sustainability to become staff committees, just like climate and culture and behavioral and emotional support team committees that are working directly on strategic goals. So, and I think I heard during exec to roll those up through our board committees. So say sustainability comes to finance and operations, sustainability,
Health and
health
wellness.
and wellness comes to curriculum. Makes sense to me, personally, and then we don't need to report out on a staff committee. I still think just because it's a staff committee, again, it's important work. And to be honest, I'd love to hear more reports. I'd love to see climate and culture come to curriculum, because climate and culture is working on a diverse learning goal right now, right? Behavioral and emotional support team is working on 3 of our strategic goals. We get lots of reports from Misty and Best, but I haven't seen one from climate and culture as it relates to that diverse learner. So that was my question, is it just, I'm new and it just seemed confusing to me.
I have a question about the MESB slides that you shared. I didn't have the benefit of hearing what the instructor had to say, but I just caught that they said you can't have a quorum of board members on a committee.
Yeah, I don't know either. I asked a question like, is this a public body? Yes or no? I don't know. That maybe somebody can provide guidance.
Well, and that's what even confused me a little bit in that document. It kind of alluded to if there were conversation amongst board members that went to another that informed the board of a decision that it could be considered a violation of OMA. I'd never seen that before. And so that's what kind of maybe.
Yeah, me too. And
right? And that's kind of how I took it.
I just asked a question. I didn't say this is how it should be. And it kind of makes me think about if we're going to have board members on nutrition and sustainability, why don't we have board members on climate and culture and BEST when those 2 committees are actually working directly on strategic planning goals? So personally, I'm fine with them all being staff committees, that we have regular monitoring updates that come to committees that then come to this body to hear the good work that's happening.
So when you say, just for clarification, when you say staff meetings, you don't mean a board member serving on that meeting group?
Correct.
Okay.
Keep it purely district staff.
District staff.
Okay.
Some of those committees have community members on them, and I will defer to whoever's chairing those staff committees to decide who gets to attend by invite those committees. Like BEST has many community members. Sustainability has many community members. Health and nutrition has many community. So just because there's not a board member on there doesn't, sometimes I wonder what I'm doing there, to be honest. I try to provide some oversight and answer some questions, but I think there's other ways to be more efficient with how we work.
Yeah, I think, you know, I originally served on the health, it was not called Health and Wellbeing, but I was the original member because we had to have.
Nutrition at that time.
Yeah, we had to have a board member, so I served in that capacity until Beth came on and then wanted to join as well. And sometimes I felt the same way as to what am I doing there, other than sometimes contributing as like a parent or, you know, different roles that we play. What do you guys think? What do the rest of you think? I mean,
Well, I
and do you
mean-
think we should continue to serve on the sustainability committee and the health and well-being, or do you think we should?
I think it's maybe useful, and if somebody's interested in attending those meetings, that's fine, but you're serving as an ex officio board member, you're not in a voting role. So you're there for hearing, clarifying, answering questions, but you don't serve in an official capacity.
The other thing it does is it actually allows you to hear more from certain areas of the community. And sometimes then you speak up at a board meeting and you say, blah, 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 no mo may or whatever. And I don't know if y'all even know what no mo may is.
It's slow-mo, maybe.
Slow mo may. Well, they didn't also, we're talking about don't mow.
Well, now it's slow.
Now let's do it so.
Reduce.
Sounds like Sarah's been busy.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
So, you know, I think with the interest of how central grade gets revised, what happens with some of the information on that sustainability committee may be very useful to know as we go along, as opposed to find out about it with expectations built, and yet perhaps the budget not being able to satisfy all the partners. You know, sometimes you can just have a little bit of input that says, you know, maybe we can't be so sure of that.
Don't you think that's the role of that central grade committee, those that were appointed to serve on that central grade committee? I mean,
Well, I think at this point,
Sorry, are you looking for me to respond?
I was looking
Okay.
for you to respond.
What we had set up was visioning committee, so that's done.
Visioning, okay.
What we
no.
would move on to now is user group meetings, so we'd meet with technology and facilities and transportation, the staff, and really work through some of those specifics and present to board finance as we learn more.
So I think that one's kind of
yeah.
not great for the conversation, that's kind of over.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, this is what I'll tell you, I am comfortable, I think it makes more sense for one board member, to be honest with you. With this document that was shared, it does make me a little nervous if anybody ever said, wait a minute, this, and oh wait, they talked to another board member, you know, could be looked at as, you know, then, oh, wait a minute, then is it a board, like, official board committee that has a meeting time and this and that, you know, so I think I would ask the board if they feel that way, that maybe it makes sense just to have one as an ex officio, just there as for listening, maybe, you know, clarification, you know, but staff would still run the meeting, plan the meeting, invite the members, all that from that standpoint. That's what my original thought and vision was for, and just, you know, with Holly passing, we got a little confused in that element and not clearly identified. And so I thought it was important to do that. So if the board is good with that kind of consensus, I'll let you guys figure out who shows up, you know, one of those two. And then I think, like Ty said, I think it makes a lot of sense to me that they report up through the finance and curriculum committees, or, you know, at some point there could be another ad hoc that goes to exec, you know, but I think that's the way it should flow through, that's
I
what makes
agree.
sense.
I agree, and so I always wondered why on our report outs. So maybe Tammy will remove those going forward and we'll report up through the committee. And then those Ty and Beth on sustainability. And then
We're also on the health and wellness.
okay, and
Or
Josie, are you
nutrition.
on any of those?
I'm the alternate to sustainability. Is it both of
Yeah.
you on right now? Okay, so one thing I was gonna say, I'm also definitely on board with the district taking ownership of these committees. In no way in my mind were they ever board committee meetings, but just getting back to the one or two board members, question. I could certainly live with it only being one. But when I saw a quorum, that made me think, okay, well,
I
for
know.
any given finance, okay, Ty and Scott right now are two of the three members on finance. If they were on sustainability together, then that's a quorum of the finance. That could be, you know, or Beth and I both be on curriculum. But if it's Ty and I, or Beth and Erica, or Beth and Scott, then you don't have that quorum issue. So then you still could keep it as two. But anyway, nobody consulted Brad Vanasek and MESB to get
Not
a
yet,
legal
no.
opinion.
Want to
So-
have the conversation first,
Yeah.
and it still can, that's something we don't have to decide today, as long as we kind of clarified, I think, the district committee part. I can call Brad and have a conversation, and we can kind of update that for next month, keep it as the same with board members right now. And then next month, if I get some glaring information, that changes that, or that Brad gives, or at least clarification for those board members, we can look at it again then.
And then and having the report out to the committee, I think that would be nice, actually.
Mhm.
And then the question would be, who would report out? Would it be the district staff
Staff, yes.
chair
Yep.
coming to the.
Which is me for sustainability,
Yeah.
but
And then
for
who's it?
nutrition and wellness, Dan.
Yeah, okay, that's great.
I will say one thing, this is on behalf of those people who are attending those committees. Sometimes having board members even in the room will stifle conversation. And I would like to see a robust conversation where somebody can say something that they can't support or can support. I just want that conversation not to get stifled by having a board member sitting there. So it's just a word of warning, I guess.
We try to be fuzzy and warm.
I don't
Can't
think
control.
we've stifled any conversation yet that I'm aware of, but, maybe I'm just not that sensitive.
We're aware.
But I don't think I am.
Fair enough. I think I had the clarification we need. We're gonna go ahead, the website, then take those off of under the board section, and we'll make sure that plan on from now on, these get lifted up through the committee, the board committee meetings.
Okay,
Well,
perfect.
here's one more question, and that is, if another member of the community is very, very interested, then would they contact Dan or you
What's that?
about attending?
Yeah, I mean, we wanna try and control like our size and those elements and that, so, we have it has an expertise, in that area is
Sure.
what we try to, when if we have, a community or a parent or something like that. And then a lot of times, maybe it's something that's clarified by state law of exactly what we have to have, so.
And when I was with Health and Wellness, we did have an application process for community members to apply to join. And that decision was then made by the chairs. So I don't know if that still exists. But anyways, I think it's good to make it accessible to the community members who are experts in their field, who bring something that will support TCAPS kids, a way to help us collaborate.
Right now, we're pretty robust with the groups
Yeah,
as
we
as
are
far as
pretty-
people.
Okay, good discussion. Okay, moving on, school safety update. Dr. Van Wagner.
Oh, didn't we have one more thing under committees in terms of?
Oh, yes, we have an appointment.
Sarah Bridges.
We need to decide, we have a vacancy right now on curriculum committee.
Yeah.
And so we need to decide who's filling that.
Well, Ms. Bajeris, I would be pleased to have you on curriculum, if you would be so inclined.
Good on curriculum, considering,
She
As a
hasn't said
former,
yes yet.
as a very recently retired
Yeah.
educator.
Yeah, I would be happy to.
So it does not take a motion, it's really the president's purview, and in absence of the president, the vice president's purview for committee assignments.
Okay,
So if you're good with the thoughts of the board with that,
Yeah.
just,
I'm good with that.
Thank you.
And our next committee meeting, Josie, when is curriculum?
That will be, let's see.
Monday, Tuesday, thank you.
Okay, and Josie did bring up that, right now we curriculum meets at 8:15, and they are talking about.
8:30.
or
8:30, we
Oh, you
changed.
just changed
We
it to
did change
8:30,
it,
okay, I
yeah.
didn't know if that was up for
Tuesday,
discussion,
Right
okay.
there on the
Tuesday, May
27th.
27th, right after Memorial
At
Day,
8:30.
at 8:30 a.m. here. Yep. And we can revisit that time or day of the week if that doesn't work for you.
And if there's ever a time you can't attend, we always have a backup and you
You
can
let Tammy know and we find somebody for you.
And Ty Schmidt is currently our alternate.
Okay, yeah, great. Okay, so now we'll move on to our school safety update. Welcome to curriculum, Sarah.
Okay, So our Assistant Superintendent Christine Thomas Hill and our Director of Safety and Security Patrick McManus recently participated in a national conference focused on advancing safety and security within the K-12 educational environment. The program provided comprehensive insights into critical areas, including the development and refinement of emergency operation plans, the implementation of effective behavioral threat assessment protocols, and the exploration of state-of-the-art technology and physical safety enhancements for school facilities. The knowledge and strategies gained through their attendance, which included interactive roundtable discussions, collaborative workshops, expert-led strategy sessions, and reflections from keynote speakers who experienced the aftermath of the tragedies at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School and Oxford High School, are expected to have a positive impact throughout TCAPS. This professional development will contribute to a more secure and prepared learning environment for students and staff, ultimately strengthening the district's capacity to ensure safety and well-being.
Okay, any questions? Okay. Next discussion item, a resolution in support of Northwest Education Services General Fund operating budget for 25-26.
So I can basically explain, so by state law, we, our board has the ability to weigh in, I can't really say approve, but weigh in on the general fund of the intermediate school district, Northwest Education Services. So, you know, they also have, their larger fund is a special ed fund. And then they also have a career and technical education fund. But we are not required or given really the opportunity on the other two, just the general fund budget. But I can tell you that across the board, we've been pleased with what that collaboration and the work, you know, on the special ed side that we do. They do have a fund balance policy of sharing revenue that's been in place now for quite a few years. So I really see no issues with it, and would recommend to the board that the board recommend to the ISD support for their budget for the 25-26 year, their general fund budget.
Is there discussion, any questions or?
Well, without sounding like the historian for TCAPS, I have been through any number of meetings in the past where we didn't approve this, so it's not just a pro forma vote. There were some serious issues we had in the past with the allocations from the ISD, so I appreciate what they've done and that we're not debating this.
John, do you remember exactly, like, what's the percentage or approximate dollar amount we get from them every year?
For the special ed deal, Christine, that's, yeah, we can get that to you. But again, it's not really a part of this tonight, but it's significant, I will tell you that. It is very significant.
I move that the Board of Education supports the Northwest Education Services General Fund operating budget for 2025-26 as presented.
A second.
Tammy, please conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Ballinger?
Yes.
Trustee Bajeris?
Yes.
Trustee Hardy?
Aye.
Trustee Pack?
Yes.
And Trustee Moore?
Yes.
I'm gonna read this real quick, just as a resolution for the community. A regular meeting of the Board of Education of Traverse City Area Public Schools District was held at the TCAPS Administration Building on May 12th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Members present included all members except President Scott Newman Vale. The following preamble and resolution were offered by member, was it? Schmidt and seconded by Ballinger. Whereas the board received the ISD General Fund operating budget on or before May 1st, 2025. And whereas in accordance with MCL 380.624 of the revised school code, the board must now adopt a resolution expressing its support or disapproval of the proposed ISD budget and must submit to the ISD board any specific objections and proposed changes the board may have to the budget prior to June 1st, 2025. Therefore, it be resolved that the ISD General Fund budget for the 25-26 school year be supported, and that the Secretary of the Board is hereby directed to submit a copy of this resolution to the Secretary of the ISD Board of Education along with any specific objections and proposed changes to the budget. Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Now we vote?
No, you already voted.
Yeah.
You voted on it.
Oh, that's right.
I just read it after.
Yep, so motion carries. Okay, great, moving on, this, recognition and appreciation for the 24-25 district retirees resolution. The next discussion item is the approval of a resolution and recognition, for our retirees. And, we're gonna have, well, I guess we'll read
So-
the resolution, actually, is there discussion and then we'll read the resolution?
You can do that, or you can pass it and then read the resolution, either way.
Okay, so is there any discussion items on this? I'm guessing not. Okay, is there, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Tammy, please conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Hardy,
Aye.
trustee Bajeris,
Yes.
trustee Ballinger,
Yes.
trustee Pack,
Yes.
trustee Schmidt,
Yes.
and trustee Lemore.
Yes, so now we will have Secretary Ballinger read, the resolution.
Okay. And then there's also a list of our retirees this year, so that follows, right?
Correct.
I'm not seeing that separately on the agenda. Okay. So the resolution of recognition and appreciation. Traverse City Area Public Schools has been fortunate to have a dedicated staff committed to the mission of the district. Several members of that staff are now about to embark on new adventures in life away from Traverse City Area Public Schools. Imagine that. Members of the TCAPS Board of Education wish to extend our utmost appreciation for the work that these staff members have done to make education an exciting and joyous experience for the students of our district. The Board of Education wishes to extend our sincere best wishes for every happiness in the future to those staff members who will be leaving the district at the end of the school year or prior to the end of the 2024 to 2025 school year. The TCAPS Board of Education recognizes and appreciates the service of those employees departing the district and wishes them well in all future endeavors, and further, that this resolution of appreciation and support be duly recorded and reflected in the minutes of the TCAPS Board of Education meeting on this 12th day of the month of May in the year 2025.
Okay. We'll go ahead and read.
Okay, and
read
now,
those
yes,
names.
now we have the honor roll of 2024 to 2025 retirees. This is the largest number of retirees I've seen in my 4.5 years on the board. We do have 39 retirees as of May 1st. So there may still be more by the end of the school year, but as of now, I will read this list in alphabetical order by last name and their years of service and their most recent position and school building in which they worked. And I will just note, if I get choked up, this gets harder and harder for me every year with more and more teachers whom I recognize from my own kids having had them. So first is Michelle Anderson with 28.5 years with TCAPS. Most recently, academic interventionist / coach at Cortade Elementary School. Bonnie Baybell, 29 years, science teacher, West Middle School. Mary Bollinger, 6 years, biology and chemistry teacher, Central High School. Laura Boydston, 2 years, special education teacher, Silver Lake Elementary School. Michelle Brown, 27 years, elementary education teacher, Long Lake Elementary School. Karen Byrne, 16.5 years, special ed teacher, Traverse Heights Elementary School. Lori Carr, 18 years, cook's assistant, Westwoods Elementary School. Dean Counselor, 18 years, bus mechanic, transportation and bus garage. Matt Dumont, 28 years, English teacher, West Senior High School. Michelle Iluo, 19 years, lead administrative assistant, Silver Lake Elementary School. Linda Foote, formerly Melvin, 30.5 years, elementary ed teacher, Long Lake Elementary School. Joe Forlenza, 31 years, social studies and history teacher, Central High School. Chrissy Gaylord, 9 years, toddler room assistant, TCAPS Montessori. Karen Gerlando, special ed teacher, Silver Lake and Willow Hill Elementary Schools, 19 years. Rosalie Golden, 37 years, elementary ed teacher, Traverse Heights. Beth Havens, 22 years, special ed teacher, Westwoods Elementary School. Kathy Johnston, 32 years, special ed teacher, West Middle School. Suzanne Caberly, 26 years, elementary ed teacher, Westwoods Elementary School. Dave Kenny, 26 years, academic interventionist, Traverse Heights Elementary. Heidi Maltby Skodak, 9 years, executive director of school improvement and innovative programs, Glenn Loomis Administration. Karen Mazurek, 4 years, preschool and extended day alternate district. Mike McAdams, 16 years, master licensed plumber, TCAPS facilities. Cara McConnell, 30 years, academic interventionist, Silver Lake Elementary. Carrie McCumber, 21 years, accounting coordinator 2, Glenn Loomis Administration. Sarah McNamara, 30 years, English teacher, Central High School. Gina McPherson, 26 years, preschool manager, Westwoods Elementary. Katie Metler, 26 years, science teacher, West Middle School. Her husband, Matt Medler, 26 years, mathematics teacher, West Middle School. Deb Pritchard, 32 years, HPE and athletic coach at West Senior High School. Dan Rice, 33 years, social studies teacher, West Senior High. Cheryl Ridenour, 26 years, elementary ed teacher, Cortade Elementary. Kristen Schoonover, 28 years, elementary ed teacher at Cortade Elementary. Kristen Sulecki, social worker, Westwoods Elementary. Jody Thompson, 25 years, mathematics teacher, West Senior High. Teresa Wangeman, 11 years, academic interventionist, Long Lake Elementary. Mike Wilson, 32 years, mathematics teacher, West Middle School. Jen Wolfert, 30 years, elementary ed and tag teacher, Central Grade School. Wendy Wolfschlarf, 38 years, music and choral education teacher, West Middle School and Central High School. Deb Wyatt, 23 years, elementary ed teacher at Silver Lake Elementary School. That concludes our list as of May 1st. A lot of institutional knowledge there. So again, we really honor them and the decades of service that many of them have given to TCAP students. And there will be a retirement reception on Thursday, May 29th from 4:30 to 6 p.m. at the TCAPS Montessori School. Thank you.
And thank you to all those teachers.
I think we should just
and
give them a
staff.
round of applause.
Okay, next agenda item, is the Teen Pregnancy Prevention and Awareness Proclamation Resolution. I'll defer to Connie Taylor.
Yes, we bring before you, we recommend the adoption. This is the Pregnancy Prevention and Awareness Month. And so we ask the board to consider the resolution in a sense promoting abstinence, but also support for students, as was indicated by our speaker earlier today, in the prevention and awareness of teenage pregnancy.
Discussion?
Yes, is there discussion?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. One is we probably need to change, it says that the regular meeting of the Board of Education District was held at the Tompkins Board Administration Center.
Good catch.
Yeah.
So I think we probably need to touch that. And then there was an area, there were two areas, and I was going to suggest that we consider perhaps adding them. One of them is in the talk where this is when my computer kind of went down on when the line caught fire underground, I guess. Okay, in this section, it's the fourth down, the fourth whereas down. And it ends currently with teen fathers have a 25 to 30% lower probability of graduating high school than teen males who are not fathers. And then I found something through the Brookings think tank when they were looking at poverty. And they said that of people living in poverty, 79% did not graduate from high school and had a child and were perhaps married before the age of 20. So that's additional information that supports it. In contrast, only 8% of parents who finish high school and wait until after age 20 to marry before having a child are in poverty. And I think that that is important as we think about strategies dealing with some of our kids going forward. Then the other part that I would suggest making a little bit of an addition to is the very end on the now therefore let it be resolved. The last sentence to say that when pregnancies occur, to help support all involved for the best possible outcomes. So it's not just the teen pregnancy prevention, but once it happens, to also support those who are involved for good outcomes. And I think that some of this may be addressed to some point in our strategic plan. If we're looking at getting some of our test scores up and the group of kids that are kind of struggling in the middle on proficiencies.
I'm just confused what you're changing in that last paragraph.
The last
You're
paragraph,
asking to change, I should say.
what I'm doing is just adding a sentence. So where it says implementing strategies to prevent teen pregnancy, period, see where that is?
Yeah.
Then to add after that, when pregnancies occur, help support all involved for the best possible outcomes. So it's supporting the kids that are involved with that pregnancy itself. And I think to a large extent that is what's being done with generations ahead.
And I think it covers that in the sentence above. I mean, it says we call upon parents, educational institutions, businesses, nonprofits, healthcare, human services, government and entities to join together in raising an awareness, empowering teen parents.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking more, I don't know what empowering teen parents means. Maybe I'd be
There's
even-
also a clause that says supporting parents in our community to ensure
supporting
well-being,
teen
success.
parents, yeah.
Well, you know, I think, I appreciate that you looked into some more research related to, you know, connecting poverty to teen pregnancy, and I wonder if maybe you could give that information to Sarah Payette at Generations Ahead, and we could consider adding something to the resolution for next year, just so it's not so
Okay.
messy tonight to try to do it in real time.
One of the things that previously the board, this goes way back, actually, it's about 6 years ago. Well, no, I take it back, 5 years ago, when Matt Anderson was on the board, is we did specifically list the sources in the document. So you can see at the bottom the footnotes that do
Yeah.
show the sources for
And
that.
I
So
would love to add the
we would
Brookings.
want it, like, we'd need it right now, exactly the,
I've got the guy, it's William Gadsden is the one who did it. He worked in the Clinton administration, I guess several other presidents, and did studies on poverty.
I also think
It's
that we
Brookings.
can't, or that we could pass this resolution, but if we decide that we wanna revise the resolution, you know, in the near future, or even, you know, wait till next year, whatever the board decides, we could do that as well.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, is maybe
Instead of
they'd wanna
delaying
do
the
it for
approval
next
of the
year.
resolution.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
I was thinking too.
okay, cause or we're gonna have to get the language right, and, you know, that can get messy on
Right.
wording and that kind of thing. But totally open to hear what you have to say. I think it'll be easier to process as a board member, just in an email. And then maybe we could, you know, even bring it back up sooner than a year and say, we'd like to revise this and just approve it.
Yeah, I'd like it not to just be a proclamation. I'd like to be able to connect it. A little bit.
Do you have a preference for revising it before we pass it, or passing it and then revising it
Well,
for a
the
later
month
date?
will go pretty quickly, you know, so I kind of hate to wait till June. I would say pass it with consideration for some modification in the language to be discussed at a later date. Okay.
That's fine for
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm easy editing somebody else's resolution that we're on the agenda to approve or disapprove, depending on how the vote goes. But I would rather not edit it on the fly here and let generations ahead maybe take it into account.
Okay, that's kind of how we did the one on alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah, just if you can get it to us ahead of time, you know, so the board members can see it ahead of time to be able to look at.
Or get it to generations ahead.
And, well, generally, we'll contact Margie and have that conversation.
Right.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, do I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approve the Teen Pregnancy Awareness Proclamation Resolution as presented.
Including the current incorrect address.
Yes,
Okay.
with that,
As revised?
as revised, with the correct address.
Good catch.
I will second that.
Tammy, please conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Hardy?
Yes.
Trustee Bajeris?
Yes.
Trustee Ballinger?
Yes.
Trustee Pack?
Yes.
And Trustee Moore?
Yes. Motion carries. Okay, next item on the agenda, the designation of, the designation of the district's electoral representative and first ballot candidate choice. I'm gonna reread that, sorry. The next discussion item on the agenda is the board will consider a resolution designating the district's electoral representative and first ballot candidate choice for the 23 biennial election of the Board Northwest Education Services. This election will be held on Monday, June 2nd, 2025. Is there a discussion?
So what we need is we need a person to be elected and a alternate in case something happens. To be there on that date. So whoever gets it, please make sure on your calendar ahead of time that you can go. And alternate in case they can't, can you please also make sure you can go before we nominate anybody?
And you need a board member.
A board member, yes,
And
has
an
to be there.
Right.
And
Come
alternate.
to the board, okay.
It's June 2nd at 5:30, right?
Correct.
PM.
And this is over at the
ISD.
building.
At the ISD building, correct, and the next to the commons.
I know I cannot,
I know I cannot.
so.
Sarah, you probably cannot either because graduation's
I'd be
the
happy
day
to
before.
volunteer for it. Since I
Scott?
yes.
Beth, are you available or Ty as a second?
I can do it as
Beth,
an alternate.
you can do as an alternate.
Okay.
So Scott Hardy is our elector and at this point, as you'll see in the resolution, there are 3 open seats and there are 3 candidates.
That makes it so
Pretty easy.
difficult.
Yes,
Perfect.
and they try to have a representation across the 5 counties. And we have 1 representative in our area and there's 1 on the ballot, so.
Perfect. Do I have a motion?
In other words, who wants to read this?
So
Go, you wanna read it?
Josie, well, yeah, okay. I was gonna say because Scott is, nominated that.
I'm not gonna nominate myself in the
That's right.
formal motion,
Okay,
let somebody else do this.
She's going for it.
I move that the Board of Education adopts a resolution to designate Trustee Hardy as this district's representative for the electoral body, which will elect 3 candidates to the vacancies on the Board of Northwest Education Services, Michigan, on Monday, June 2nd, 2025, and Trustee Beth Pack as an alternate in the event the designated representative is unable to attend. The designated representative and alternative are further directed to cast a vote on the first ballot on behalf of this board for Rachel Bert Thompson and Rick Schmidt.
A second?
Tammy, please conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Pack?
Yes.
Trustee Ballinger?
Yes.
Trustee Bajeris?
Yes.
Trustee Hardy?
Aye.
Trustee Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Moore?
Yes.
So we will,
Carries.
we will read this and then we do need to go back and just, again, we don't have to procedurally, but we customarily do read also the resolution for the teen pregnancy as well.
Yeah.
So we'll read this one.
Okay, I missed that.
You're good.
Yeah,
No
sorry.
worries. So let's go ahead and read this. So I'll read. this one, and I'll let you read the other, so. Let's see, at the May 12th meeting of the Board of Education of Traverse City Area Public Schools, in the Glenn Lewis Administration Building within the boundaries of the district, on May 12th, 12th day of May 2025 at 7:30 PM. The meeting, actually, I'm sorry, at 6 PM. The meeting was called to order by Vice President Moon Moore. All of our members present except for Scott Newman Bale. The following preamble and resolution were offered by member Pack and supported by member Ballinger. Whereas the biennial election of the Board of the Northwest Education Services, Michigan, the ISD Board will be held on Monday, June 2nd, 2025. And 3 ISD board seats will be filled by an election conducted by an electoral body composed of 1 person designated by the board of each of the constituent school districts. And in accordance with the revised school code 6142 MCL 380.614 subsection 2, this board desires to designate trustee Scott Hardy as its representative and trustee Beth Pack as an alternate designated representative in the event the designated representative is unable to attend and further desires to direct said representative and alternate to vote on behalf of this board for a specific candidate or candidates. And the board previously considered this resolution at its public meeting on May 12th, 2025. Now therefore be resolved that the board does hereby approve the designation of trustee Scott Hardy as the representative of this board to the electoral body, which body will elect the 3 candidates to the vacancy of the ISD board on Monday, June 2nd, 2025, and Beth Pack as an alternate in the event the designated representative is unable to attend. The designated representative and alternate are further directed to cast a vote on at least the first ballot on behalf of this board for Rachel Bingy, Bert Thompson, and Rick Schmidt, I believe it is. The secretary of the board is hereby further directed to properly file a certified copy of this resolution with the ISD board secretary. All resolutions and parts of the resolution insofar as they conflict with the provisions of this resolution are hereby rescinded.
Okay, thank you.
Very well stated.
Thanks. And then the resolution for?
Yes, the teen pregnancy, yes, or Traverse City Board of Education resolution. Yes,
Okay.
sorry I missed that.
Sorry. All right, whereas the well-being and future success of our youth are paramount to the prosperity of our communities, and whereas teenage parents face unique challenges and responsibilities as they navigate the journey of parenthood while still adolescents, and whereas between 2018 to 2022, there were 163 births to teenage parents in our community, defined as Grand Traverse, Leelanau, and Benzie counties, highlighting the urgent need for support and resources earmarked for this population, according to data from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services 2024. And whereas teenage parents are often unable to complete the education, only half of teen mothers receive a high school diploma by age 22, and teen fathers have a 25 to 30% lower probability of graduating high school than teen males who are not fathers, which later results in unemployment, underemployment, and dependence on public assistance. And whereas teenage mothers often seek prenatal care late and therefore can suffer increased health risks, and their babies are often born premature and with low birth weights. And whereas it is imperative to promote awareness and education about the consequences of teen pregnancy, including its impact on the physical and mental health, educational attainment, and socioeconomic outcomes, and whereas empowering adolescents with the knowledge, skills, and resources to make informed decisions about their sexual health and relationships is essential in preventing unintended pregnancies. And whereas fostering supportive environments that encourage open communication between adolescents and trusted adults, including parents, guardians, educators, and the community, is crucial in addressing the root causes of teen pregnancy. And whereas supporting teen parents in our community is essential to ensuring the well-being and success of both the parents and their children. And whereas despite the challenges they may have, teen parents and have the potential to thrive when provided with adequate support and opportunities. Now therefore be it resolved, the TCAPS, Traverse City Area Public Schools of Grand Traverse, Leelanau, and Benzie Counties do hereby proclaim the month of May as Teen Pregnancy Prevention and Awareness Month. We call upon parents, educators, institutions, businesses, nonprofit organizations, healthcare and human service organizations, and governmental entities to join together in raising awareness, providing education, empowering teen parents, and implementing strategies to prevent teen pregnancy.
Great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for reading, and I apologize for missing that the first time around. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item, strategic planning number 2.
Okay. I'm happy to kick this off. Couple of things, you know, we had our strategic planning session number 1 on April 28th, and I think, you know, from what I have heard from a few trustees, and I did watch the recording of the executive committee meeting last week, from like 10 days ago. There was a suggestion there that the board gets an overview of the current strategic plan, implementation status, basically to just bring everybody up to speed, older and newer board members, on the current status of the 12 strategic goals, the extent to which they have been implemented, successes to date, challenges and gaps that remain, to give us some kind of background before we launch into the next strategic plan. Obviously, that wasn't part of our first session with Dr. Seglarek, and so that was something that it sounded like different trustees were interested in before we even get to that strategic planning session number 2 on June 16th. And so probably the most obvious opportunity would be our regular board meeting on June 9th, a week before the strategic planning session. So that was one thing. And then secondly, there's been some discussion about how we did not expressly go over the mission, vision, and values of the current strategic plan, and whether we want to just auto-renew that, or if anybody felt like they needed to wordsmith it or add to it. So just to give some feedback to Dr. Seglarek that we'd like to tee that up for the second strategic planning session. And then thirdly, I know that there was conversation in executive about the performance metrics that were proposed by Jesse Houghton and Dan Teisworth and Dr. Van Wagoner on academic achievement, standardized test scores we could look at. And I just wanted to revisit that quickly, if we can reach a quick consensus quickly, since this is our only opportunity. Because to me, it seemed like digging into those performance measures before we've identified the new goals for the next strategic plan seemed to be out of order, like digging into those details. So I would probably suggest that we do those later. So those were the 3 issues that I have heard others raise, and I thought about myself and discussed briefly with the superintendent. So anybody else want to chime in?
So per practice of the past, whenever we've had 2 or more members want something on an agenda, so we have not done agenda planning for our June board meeting yet.
Right.
So I've had at least 2, I know Scott's mentioned that. So per Scott's kind of policy he's done, I will put that on for consideration on the executive committee for the June board meeting. So that can kind of, per his policy that he's had, or practice I should say, I will go ahead and just add that one. So we can take that one if you want.
The first issue, the overview.
So then
Okay.
the next 2 are a little bit different.
Yeah, just to be clear, we have a consensus though that that's what everybody.
Well, the only thing I had said, I think I said at the executive meeting, was that I don't care when the baseline gets defined as to what progress we've made. It could be at the strategic planning session itself if we want to. There's some value to that because there's a recency effect, so at least you're dealing with information that you're not going to see how you can correct or improve with new goals. I just, for Sarah and myself and Ty, I have a hard time trying to determine what the goal is going to be without knowing what the starting point is. And I'm not debating any of the goals from the previous strategic plan. I just want to know where we're at, so I know where we need to get.
Yeah, and maybe we messed up and didn't let Nick know that, and that's fine, and that's like, I don't even know if it needs to be in June, it just needs to be before the next strategic plan, and I think that's all, right?
And so, so let me back up what I just said then. I'm not sure I do have consensus now on when. So basically, you guys just need to tell me, it sounds like you want it, but I do need some consensus of when you want it.
Well, before we get into the weeds of the second study session, right?
Okay, which our next opportunity would be then our
Yeah,
June board
and I
meeting.
think like all this is meant to be just because we've never had a discussion about the process or the steps and
Sure. Yep.
like, what did we learn? What went
Yep.
well? What didn't? I mean, I came home from that study session, I felt like this, the perception surveys is great data, but as we follow the data, there's so much,
Yeah.
right? And I just wanna make sure.
And happy to do it. Like I said, you
and that's
just, you
all.
tell
And
me
that-
when.
And that's it. It doesn't really matter when, as long as before.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think what I'm hearing consensus is that, yes, at our next June board
Okay.
meeting.
So
add it to the
back
agenda.
up, I will add it to the agenda for executive committee to consider.
And I've got it in my notes too for
Okay.
board exec, so, we'll add that.
Okay.
So that's
Can I
one
just
item.
add,
Second
Russ?
item, Jesse and Dan on presenting achievement, measurable. We're gonna go over that at the start of our strategic plan. In your opinion, do you think it would fit good there, or do you think we should push that out a little bit until we have some set goals?
Well, I think there's a bit of an argument for both. I mean, I think because we went quite a bit into it with that first study session, I feel like we're ready to close the loop on what those look like. I think we're going to, if you really analyze it, I think going through the goal first and attaching it to one of those goals, we're all sure there will be an academic achievement goal. So it's depending what order you'd like to go in, but I feel like, again, if we wouldn't have done the study session, I think we'd be a little more behind it. We'd have to for sure do the goal first, but Jesse and I have worked together on this. We've worked with our curriculum team, we've worked with the administration team and all the principals. We've discussed it in joint principals. So regardless of the direction, and if it's a timing thing, we can go either way. But logistically, it's kind of up to the
Yeah,
board.
and I for
on that.
one appreciate this, and I mean, when I saw this, I got excited, and I also talked about the continuous improvement goals around academic achievement, around whole student support, around school systems, and so does that answer my question? Yes, like I wasn't really asking about, I asked about three things, the goals around behavior, right? I mean, I'd like to know how we're doing on behavior. I mean, are we doing well or not well? I don't know, will we build on that goal in the new plan? I don't know. I also was wondering about enrollment. Jesse brought that up at the meeting, and will that be a goal? And how are we doing? And what strategies have we taken there? So, it doesn't really matter to me when it happens, but it just seems we missed a few steps, and that's probably our bad for not relaying that to Nick, I guess.
Well, I will say this, if we're gonna get into strategic planning and trying to establish new goals, I desperately need to know where we're starting from. I can't establish the new goal and then retroactively go back and figure, well, we're not even close to that, so maybe that goal needs to be amended.
Right.
That's my only point. I'm not looking for copious information about each and every one. I just wanna know the starting point.
Well, each and every one is 12, and the other thing that got brought up is let's have 9 or 12 goals, and that's where like we haven't even provided input because I would love to see 5 goals. I think it personally, but when all of a sudden it felt like we were going down the river with things already kind of been decided, and I'm like, and maybe it was coming next with all of the other data around enrollment, around behavior, around bullying, because that will provide the baseline, and I guess I'd just like to see that before we start making new goals.
Well, and I guess then I just encourage all the board members on your one-on-one with John to have those conversations of things like maybe you could have the conversations with Nick that maybe we missed and.
Yeah, but I still think right now we still have some unfinished kind of resolution. So basically, A is, in exec committee, we talked about Jesse and Dan and myself doing some baseline, and just need clarity here on exactly what, but I think we just heard what. At least Ty's thoughts on what. Do we do that, do we do that like the first hour of the study session? Or do you think you get to broader goal of academic achievement that comes out of it? And then afterwards, like in a follow-up board meeting or study session, or maybe the board feels we need another study part of the strategic plan to present all of that stuff as sub-components that you guys can evaluate, that you can, you can go either way. And so I just want clarity for us is, do you want a presentation that hour in front, or do you want to try and set the big goals and then bring sub-goals under it at a later point that we would bring to you after? It's your choice.
I'm okay with how it was originally set up, so the hour before presenting on those achievement goals, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I think there's a recency effect that would be very valuable. But we were trying not to extend the strategic planning into the next morning, so.
But we said we would take that first hour from 5 to 6 and do that, and then 6 to whatever would be our.
So just so I'm clear, do that means update on where we are with our goals?
No, so the goals would be, like what was just said, will be at our board meeting, our regular June 9th board meeting. And the first hour then would be just
student achievement.
So you guys were provided their thoughts on some specific possibilities on that?
Can I ask for a similar memo around whole student support? Like a recommendation from our chief academic officers, and maybe some recommendation, a similar memo around school systems.
So
you want like a memo around each of the MyKIP, the school improvement goals?
Personally, I would.
Yeah, see, and that's where I differ, because with a strategic plan, first you have to identify your strategic goals. And then you later dig into, you develop the objectives that support those goals, and then further the performance measures or metrics that is how the district will measure success. And so, to me, I feel like I wanna preserve the 3 hours that we have with Nick Siglaric on June 16th for that strategic planning session number 2, to make sure we get through identifying the goals and revisit the mission, vision, and values. And then if we have time at the end of that 3 hours, then we could dig further, but I don't wanna jeopardize running out of time, and then we rush it, or we necessitate a third meeting. I think it'd be better if we as a board talked about the objectives and your performance metrics at a later date, once we've set the academic goals and the other goals, because like Ty says, there's gonna be performance measures and objectives supporting other strategic goals as well.
Beth, what do you think? Sarah, you probably kind of throwing you into this, but
Yeah.
what are the rest of you guys think?
I think that we've had a lot of goals in that strategic plan, and I'd like to see us draw them to a closure, if you will. And from that, then you bridge into, and it may very well be that parts that you don't complete, you say, well, we can't do that because we need to do this other thing first. But until you get more definition on where we are with those 12, and I think it goes back to John and Jesse and Dan's presentation on, this is where we are with these guys. Those were huge. It was almost like you wanted to change the world. Right. But close. And was that realistic? And to not meet them is not the end of the world either, you know.
So you're gonna get that. You're gonna get that at the June board meeting.
And do that. And then
The question is next.
next,
Do you feel you need a review of all of the academic, and Ty has now mentioned a couple other areas? Do you need that then go into the strategic planning goal setting? Or do you do the goals then that? I think it's just philosophical here of which ones, what comes first.
the other thing is we've gotten a lot of some of that information over the course of the curriculum committees. You know, and so if you spend time, and that is what I'm gonna do on the next weekend, is just lay out. I love paper, I'm sorry, but I can sort it so much better, you know, and tie things together, so to speak. We did a lot on discipline in the curriculum committee, and it's there on tape in that that little thing called the computer. And so we just kind of have to really focus on, if we do academic goals as the big thing, then do these other things, are we looking at them as to how they actually connect to support academic success? You know, it's sort of like, how do we weave things, not just have all these independent things?
So just for clarification purposes, are you in favor of Jesse and Dan presenting the hour before our strategic plan on achievement?
I'm doing
measures?
we're doing with the overall current plan
Yes.
at our
At
June board
board
meeting.
Right,
The
that's
question
decided.
is, after that, at our strategic plan study session, do you want a first hour of review of academic, the things that they have already identified, that, you know, some things Ty has mentioned here? Or, so I think what's also being proposed is, no, to figure out what your big arching ones are, and then come after with our team bringing thoughts and suggestions on that next level at, you know, a month later or 2 months later, and then the board approve that as a whole. It's just which one you want.
Actually, I'd also like to see the data. You know, they've showed us a lot of graphs and charts. I'd like to see that one more time, because I think that somehow, you know, we were talking about things that aren't in the data because I don't think the questions were asked.
Fair enough.
And yet, those things may be real important to looking at, although we don't have data from the surveys that have been done. Does that make sense?
But we have other data, and I think that's
Yes,
the
we
point here,
do.
is do you want those other things in that first hour, or do you see it after the fact? So
But
it's,
it's a lot to organize.
First hour.
Do you wanna lose?
My request was pretty simple. You've got 12 goals. I just want to know what progress, where we're at. with
but
the
that's
goals.
separate, that's gonna happen.
All right, that's all I can.
That's done, that's put to bed, that's happening in our regular June board meeting.
Yes, we're only
I was
talking about the
suggesting that in
hour
the first
before.
hour is what
And
I
then,
was
well, maybe
suggesting.
we give
So
some
we've decided
guidance.
that's gonna be at
We
the
give
board
some-
meeting, so now in the first
We
hour.
give some guidance at the board meeting after how that goes with the data
That
on the
makes
study
sense.
session.
And if I can find some of the stuff, Ty,
That's a
I'll
capital
tell you
idea.
where. it'll
So
be.
help me out with what you mean by that. So this one will be bringing just the current strategic plan and where we're at.
Where we're at, what we learned.
And so right now, that's all that's planned.
Right.
So, you know, and so so what you're saying is, bring that to you, and then at the next board meeting, decide. My only caveat to that is we don't have much time then, and we've gotta let Nick know what's gonna happen at that. We're just, you're only days away from the study session for strategic planning. That's the only issue I have with that. But I'd rather, if you guys want it, I'd rather know it now so that our team can prepare, or we walk into it without that and then bring it to you at a point, a month or two, as sub goals, as our team identifies. And you can slice and dice them, like them, not, nope, come back with different things afterwards. Again, we're happy to do either or. I just need clarity on what that
Well,
is.
and one question has Dr. Sigler shared with you a draft agenda for this next?
No.
Because, you know, I know what it was like last time,
Yeah.
but this is more expedited.
I think we're asking to go back and change. I'm gonna have to have a conversation with them about
Yeah.
probably differently than they're thinking right now. And I will tell you, you know, based on this, they may go, okay, we may need a third then. But if so, I think by listening to what Beth said on the board would rather get it right, and so be it if there's a third, there is. But, and if we can finish it, great.
Right.
But, you know, we're happy to do either or. I just need consensus clarity from the board.
Yeah.
So that Dan, Jesse, and I know what we're bringing to you and when.
So in summary, I'm gonna go ahead and say that what I'm hearing is for our June board meeting, we will have an update as to what
Our current
where we're
strategic plan.
at with our current strategic plan, and then we will utilize the hour before our next strategic plan meeting to have an update from Jesse and Dan regarding achievement measurement and what that might look like.
Well, that's the cart before the horse that Josie was talking about.
Okay, but
Yes.
I've gotten consensus though that we've decided to go ahead with the hour.
I don't know
Have
that.
you?
I don't know that, but we'll see.
I mean, Yeah,
That is
that's
the
the
cart
question.
before
Do we
the
wanna,
horse.
I'm open to what the majority wants. It's just, do we wanna zoom in before we zoom out and
And the only
identify
reason
new
we're zooming
strategic-
in, because if you look at the current strategic plan, there's nothing around proficiency. So even though we list M-STEP, PSAT, SAT, when we get the report in June, there'll be nothing on achievement or proficiency. So I think the rest of it, we will get updates on, everything from enrollment to behavior to bullying to mental health. So I think the only thing left, I believe, is like the memo around, and I did the sheet, so it could take 15 minutes to, here's where we are with third grade reading, here's where we are with eighth grade math, here's our graduation rates.
But then that's assuming that proficiency for TCAPS is all going to be measured by standardized testing.
Kids, we're gonna let you guys get out of here in like 5 minutes, so it's almost 8 o'clock,
Right.
just so you know that.
That's true.
We're gonna
Right,
wrap
yeah,
this
I mean,
up for you guys in like
That's where
5
we
minutes.
are.
Yeah.
Right now, I just wanna say like, our 1A goal around student achievement, the data supporting that, if you look at it, it lists M-STEP and PSAT.
know.
So,
I
I mean,
know.
But I think, Ty, what would be different is, so I think there's probably already consensus that that'll be an overarching. Now, we would come back after with very specifics of what we would want under that goal, is what Josie's proposing. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you are okay as long as it's identified that is one of the key goals overarching that comes out of the strategic plan.
I mean, I'm just one guy, but yes.
I get it, but I'm just saying from your
Yes,
perspective,
absolutely.
right now, then could come back after. And
Yes.
I think from past conversations, I don't think I have a board member that would disagree with that. Is there anybody that would disagree with that thought?
No, but I think it's part of the conversation we're gonna have in the 2-hour block where we talk about new goals and the strategic plan. I mean, it
And I
may be
don't-
well
yeah.
warranted, but I think we need to have the conversation, because it's not one of the goals right now.
And I also don't think that what Jesse and Dan are gonna lay out are gonna be like, we're not going, it's the cart before the horse would be if we took a goal and then said, this is how we're gonna measure it. I think they're gonna kind of outline how we could measure some options and how we could incorporate achievement measurements into our goals.
And we might bring it and you may go, don't like it, come back to the drawing board, and that's okay.
That's fine.
And it could very well be that what we want isn't out there.
Or it can't be measured.
Exactly. Bingo. But then we have to refine it. And generally, there's a way to do it.
So to be clear, June 16th then at 5, we have the strategic planning session number 2 from 5 to 8. And we would demarcate that first hour for Jesse and Dan to present something that would bridge what's presented on the current strategic plan June 9th before we launch into
No.
June 16th.
We wouldn't
new
bridge
goals.
anything, we would actually give you specifics, they've already sent the board kind of their thoughts of metrics and that element. I think, I think right now, Jesse and Dan, give me a nod, I think you kind of know what Ty said that he's thinking, wanted. So we could give you that, or if you think that you just wanna go through the process, and right now you're saying, I think you could ordain right now, that's going to be one of our goals. And then you could ask during that session at the end of it,
Yeah.
John, please have the team.
Yeah.
And as you come back another month later with how you're putting specifics to that goal and present that to the board for the board to think it meets the mark or not.
I like
I'm
that.
seeing heads to that. Ty, good with that thought? Beth, good with that thought?
Oh, yeah, we'll watch it play.
Good, Scott, live with that, Sarah?
Yep.
Okay,
I think we
so
all
what we're
like
gonna do right now, we are not
students.
going to plan on that session, we're just gonna go, we'll start with mission, vision, and values. We'll look at where we're at with that. We'll go through that process as Nick has planned. From there to identify specific goals. One we already are saving is going to be around student achievement, especially with closing the achievement gap. With our subgroups, especially economically disadvantaged. There will be others, and then after that's the board reaches those. Our team at another point after that will bring back those sub-goals that are measurables for the items the board identifies.
And if we're starting at 5 and we get done at 7, We have that last hour still,
You're,
right?
you're being hopeful, Joseph.
I am. That was another reason why I didn't want it that first
Yeah.
hour and
Okay,
jeopardize.
I think I have my clarity.
Okay,
Jesse, Dan, clarity?
It's gonna be so good, you guys.
okay.
Okay.
Excellent. So at this time, we're gonna take a quick little minute before we go to our public comment number 2. Any kid can go to any board member. It has to be a board member to sign your sheets. Thank you for your patience.
You guys
Back in session. Thank you for all your patience there. We'll move on to our public comment number 2. The board has set aside this time for public comment. Individuals addressing the board shall have the opportunity to speak during public comment and shall be limited to 3 minutes. Individuals should not make personal attacks unrelated to actions affecting the school system. We strongly encourage common courtesy and constructive feedback. Detailed rules and procedures, including a complaint process, are outlined in Board Policy 2504. Tammy.
Lily Glidden.
All right. Yeah, there you go. We're glad you're
It
doing
is
it.
videoed, so you know live.
still on camera.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Lily, and I'm here today to discuss my strong support for continued and increased funding for career technical education programs. These programs are not just elective, they are essential pathways to real life skills and career readiness. Whether it's in healthcare, welding, automotive, culinary arts, or allied health, microcontrollering, career tech helps students discover purpose, build confidence, and graduate with employable skills. I've seen firsthand how CTC programs can transform students, some of whom struggle in traditional classrooms, by giving them a hands-on, meaningful learning experience. They walk out of the programs not just with credits, but with certifications and experience, one that I have benefited from as well. Every dollar invested in career tech pays off through higher student admissions, happier students, more learning opportunities, and more importantly, meaningful memories. It gives students the opportunity to make mistakes, learn from them, fix them, and have fun doing it. I thank the board for protecting and expanding funding for career and technical education. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for
very
speaking.
much.
Thank you.
Good job. Yeah,
Have a good night.
that was great. You
Good
too.
point.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for bearing with me. I don't normally serve in this role leading our board meetings, so I appreciate just, helping me through some of those mistakes. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Meeting adjourned. Our next board meeting will be Monday, June 9th at 6 p.m. in this room. Thank you.